And they're off to the races. Yes, Canada, we are finally having a federal election. But will this be the expectation that we all had from just a few short months ago? Or have times changed? Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Warren Kinsella and Brian Lilley. Infamously, Brian, the British MP once said, events, young man, events. That's what
Yeah.
changes everything. And what we would have thought as a result of this federal election just a few short months ago, certainly the events have changed those expectations, Brian.
Yeah, now we've got Mark Carney as the front runner in an election that looked like it was going to be Pierre Poilievre's to lose. So what does Mark Carney have to do? As little as possible, speak as little as
Mhm.
possible with the media, try not to answer questions, try not to get snippy with people, and just reassure everyone that he can deal with Donald Trump. Pierre Poilievre's got to convince everyone that he's not Donald Trump, that he will stand up to the Americans and get that vote because regardless of what a small but loud contingent says online, most Canadians don't want to be the 51st state. Most Canadians don't like what Trump is doing. There's this rump that's out there trying to make everyone believe online that no, this is what Canada wants, and Poilievre should just shut up and listen to Trump. No, this whole election is going to be about one man, and he doesn't even live inside the country.
And, Warren, to that point, recently, President Trump did an interview with Laura Ingraham on Fox News and said, I don't like that conservative guy. He's stupidly not my friend. It's easier to deal with the liberals. So he basically, that sort of tacit endorsement of Mark Carney in a way. But Warren, I'm wondering, with all that is unfolding, from your a vast amount of experience, campaign experience, knowing this country, what is going to be the ballot question?
Politics is like comedy. It's all about timing. The
Hmm.
timing, Mark Carney is the luckiest guy I've seen
Yeah.
in politics in a long time. He arrived when Justin Trudeau was leaving. He arrived
Hmm.
when Donald Trump was arriving. And he's arrived at the moment where there's an actual existential threat to the country. And he's got momentum. And we all know the most precious commodity in politics is momentum. So Philip Fournier with 338 Canada, so we don't know where things exactly stand at the moment. The polls show the two main parties very tight, but the seat projections that Fournier's got is a liberal majority, not a big majority, 178 seats. They need 172, and the Tories way back at 130, Bloc 25, NDP 8, and the Greens 2. So, I mean, that is the dramatic change that has been caused in the past few weeks
Yeah.
by the arrival of Trump and the departure of Trudeau. And Carney is one lucky guy. The question is, for somebody who's never run for high public office before, can he maintain that momentum? Can he avoid making a mistake? Can keep the focus on Trump and have it not divert to something else? Can they run a disciplined campaign? The Poilievre guys, and I've got a column about this week in Post Media. Poilievre, if you think about it, has not had a bimbo eruption in the time that he's been leader. He's kept a real tight lock on his caucus. So there hasn't been any blowups over abortion or same-sex marriage or any of that usual stuff that his predecessors had to deal with. So he's done well in that regard. I expect he'll continue to have a disciplined campaign. But the radical element, as they say in chemistry class, is Donald Trump. Like none of us know what he's going to say. As Brian
That's
always
right.
says, you get up in the morning and you check your device to see, what he dictated in the White House kitchen overnight, and that's what we're all responding to during the day. That works in Mark Carney's favor, and that stuff unfairly, I think, works against Pierre Poilievre.
Brian, there is this, as both of you have said, it appears now this is an election for Mark Carney's election to lose. It still very well may happen, but there's all this newfound Canadian pride by Canada. We will not be the 51st state. We're going to stand up against the United States. This sort of strength that Canadians are finding from within. Um, in on that score, the battleground and the seats that are needed to win concentrated in Ontario. I know it's frustrating for the West to hear some of that, but um, do you see this happening as battleground Ontario? Or are we going to see focus out in Atlantic Canada, where Conservatives were trying to make some gains, but maybe that might not happen anymore? Where is this election being fought in our own border, so to speak?
Uh, Ontario and BC. Those are the two keys. Alberta is going to predominantly go um, uh, conservative, but the Liberals may either hold the two they've got or maybe even pick up a couple more.
Hmm.
Saskatchewan has been totally blue for the past few elections. They've got to keep it that way if they want a chance at winning. The Liberals would love to pick up, say, some seats in Regina. Manitoba is a minor battleground province there in terms of, the Liberals look like they were going to lose a few. If they hold on to them, that's good for them. But Ontario and BC, for the Conservatives to win, they've got to basically replicate Stephen Harper in 2011 and
Hmm.
just run up the score in those two regions. Uh, the Some of the polls have shown the Liberals at 50% in BC. That's soft support because BC is normally a three-party race, but the lower mainland, that's where the battle is. The Conservatives will probably win in the interior. Anywhere where there's a resource-based economy in that area should probably stay blue. And then Ontario will become the battleground. I think that the Liberal support in Quebec will stay where it is, and Atlantic Canada has been faithful to the Liberals even when Justin Trudeau was highly unpopular. Their support there was higher than anywhere else in the country. So, yeah, watch for the fight around Ontario. Watch for a fight around jobs and who's going to protect those.
I have to disagree with Brian. Atlantic Canada did switch blue around the time of the big controversy about the carbon tax. The red wall crumbled. It's now back.
It was
And
back before Trudeau left, though.
in the province of Quebec, the blocks collapse. What's happened in the province of Quebec is Quebecers realize they may not like us, squareheads as they call Anglophones, but they know that the French language is gone in the event we become the 51st state. So that's what's happened there. But right now, as Brian says, for sure, the fight will be in Ontario and BC. But coming out of Atlantic and Quebec, there is a red wave at the moment. So that is why Carney is ahead. And, the Tories, I just don't see what they're going to pick up, what they're going
Hmm.
to flip in Ontario, because the Liberal vote, people use this word all the time, the Liberal vote is efficient. The Liberal vote is gathered in places where it works very favorably for them. And you can say, well, that's gerrymandering or unfair. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The problem is the Tory vote, where I come from in Alberta and Saskatchewan, it's wasted vote. You can't win a seat twice in Alberta. So, the Tories needed their vote to be more spread out.
That's right.
And for a while it was. For a while it was. They were doing okay in Quebec. They were doing box office boffo in Atlantic Canada, same in Ontario, and then Trump arrives and everything flips. So it's a very different map than it was.
Warren, I want to start with you on this question. Um, what is Poilievre going to have to say to push back against what we know the Liberal accusation is against him? What did Chrystia Freeland went on Bill Maher's show and called him Maple MAGA? Um, does that stick, so to speak, or what is it Poilievre is going to have to project? Because quite frankly, since the tariffs threat, I mean, he has been pushing back. He has, vociferously said, Canada first. This is not the road we are going to go down. We are going to fight for our resources here. We're going to fight for our markets here. What's your view on that?
Well, I'm a war room guy,
Yeah.
and I think that Poilievre is being faulted for a suspicion, not
Hmm.
not a proven allegation. The suspicion is that he's got Donald Trump's picture pasted on the inside of his locker at school. And as I've said many times, I don't think he does. But it doesn't matter what I think. People think that. Voters think that. He needs to, and I'm going to do a column about this. Here's the letter that Pierre Poilievre should send to Donald Trump. I think Pierre Poilievre should be insulting and aggressive and over the top with Donald Trump and say, you are not a conservative. You are a threat to the country. I think if I were him, I would just burn the bridges. I know that creates difficulty for him down the road if he becomes prime minister. But at the end of the day, I have a liberal outlook. All that matters is winning. He needs to win the campaign, and his biggest impediment is Donald Trump. So he needs to get rid of that impediment. He needs to get rid of that roadblock. And the way to do it is to be much more aggressive than he has been so far.
And Brian, to you, the question with respect to Mark Carney, we've seen that he doesn't do media interviews very well. He doesn't handle being questioned very well. Election time is when someone is pushed, and that's the opportunity to go off balance a little bit. There's wobbles that can happen, and he hasn't fully disclosed his finances. This opaque nature of a blind trust is still a question mark. Do Canadians care about that, or do they care about the fact that everybody surrounded by Mark Carney is simply just a retread of all Trudeau's people, the people that we were mad at just a few short months ago and upset with how they've handled our country? How's Carney handled that?
I don't think the public is going to care that much about the blind trust. It's a huge issue. I mean, the guy owns a lot of assets through Brookfield, and he can't sell some of those. He will be paid by these funds that he set up for Brookfield for years to come because he set them up. It's an interest-carrying payment. And that puts him in conflict with all kinds of government decisions. But I don't think the public cares about that. And they clearly don't care that they've just switched out the lead singer, but the band is the same. They seem happy with that.
Yeah, sorry.
His Achilles heel could end up being how he performs. He has not been listening to his handlers until this week. Obviously, he did when he was in Iqaluit and had a better media appearance. Every politician has handlers around them who try and say, boss, look, you've got to do this. Hey, this group is going to come at you with that. Answer with this. He needs to listen to them and stop yelling at them, which has been what's been going on in the past. If he's able to do that, he can just, try and skate to a finish with Donald Trump as the only issue. If he doesn't listen, if he has a bad performance, that could change. But you've mentioned, Adrienne, events, dear boy, events. I'm thinking there could be more in the campaign. None of us expected the Boxing Day shooting in 2005 to completely change that campaign.
That's right.
Push things in the direction of Stephen Harper. And then a couple days later, Judy Wash-Elise from the NDP showing up and waving a fax that she got from the RCMP about investigating the Martin government. So, a lot of things can change between now and when we do finally mark that X on the ballot.
Well, Canada, what is going to be the ballot question for you? More of the same or time for a change? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And go to thetorontosun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.